I got a suggestion that could save Harley Davidson, at least in spirit anyway. How about making this guy, Panhead Billy Burrows, putting him on one of the board members up there in corporate land of Harley Davidson? You know, this guy here, Johann Zeig, he really screwed that company up, man. I'm looking at this right now. He's 62 years old. He's younger than me by 8 years. And he was the youngest CEO ever in a company back when he was 30 years old, when he became a Puma CBO. You know what gets me is that, other people build up companies, and then you got these clowns come in there, and somehow, I don't know how to get in the inside track to get in on these high important positions, but they don't know a damn thing what they're doing. That's what it comes down to. So, I could say like Scooter. I think Scooter Tramp Scotty be another freaking great member of the board. The whole deal is, here's what I think with Harley Davidson. First off, it's made in USA more or less, and on my thinking is, even if it's not made all the way in USA, as you keep fixing the bike or whatever it is, as the years go by and you get more and more miles on it, you get something made in the USA and you have an American fix it, or if you're an American, of course, you fix it and it's made in USA. So that's one way of looking at it. This guy here, he traveled, I think recently though, he's had some hip problems and stuff. He's not on the road anymore, and teeth problems and stuff. This guy, Johann Zeig, he got $50 million in 1 year, just in bonuses. You think this clown could give this guy, Panhead Billy Burrows, I think he's looking for like $20,000 or something to replace his hips or something. I don't know what it is. You think he could do that? You think he can do that? But nope, greed is, unlimited. The other guy, I follow Scooter Tramp Scotty on YouTube a lot. And actually conversed to him a little bit on an email. And I said, you can come over and stay by me if you wanted to, because I'm like 60 miles from Daytona to Bike Oktoberfest, and, Daytona Bike Week. I'm 60 miles from there and 15 miles from Leesburg Bike Fest. But, if he got down this way, it's like he'd be close to where, the events are. But, I think in one of his videos, he actually mentioned that Panhead Billy Burrows was part of the inspiration. Now, I would not do this because, this kind of living out in the road stuff. Man, I limit to a 200-mile radius, like whatever my AAA goes. That's about it. I don't go traveling all over the country. I like riding and stuff, but man, I wouldn't be going to this extent. But even me, I'd be a better CEO than these clowns. Here's the thing. This guy's from Germany, right? The Johann Zeig. The Volkswagen air-cooled motor, I swear to God, it reminds me of the Harley in a lot of ways. It's supposed to be simple, reliable, rugged, and you'd be able to fix it yourself with hand tools for the most part. And, the Volkswagen motto was that, and I put this out in another video, but, I'm going to mention it again. The Volkswagen mantra, whatever it was, or corporate philosophy, whatever it was that you didn't change the car just for styling or just change for change's sake or some of the latest gimmick. You made a change, you made it better. Now, I think Harley does make some changes better, and they make some things cheaper and worse. But say they went with the full Volkswagen philosophy, the true philosophy the way it was. You imagine how reliable these bikes would be. I mean, maybe you wouldn't, there'd be bikes around forever and ever. Like Panhead Billy's bike was a 1960 Panhead with a 1947 rigid frame with a Springer on it. And I remember he said in one of his videos that he used, he didn't even trust the switch for the light headlight. He used to use an alligator clip. That's really going real simple. But, Scooter Tramp Scott, he's got like the Evo, which I think, I agree with that. I got Evo Sportsters. Now, you were driving across the country, you wouldn't be riding on no damn Sportster, but I don't do that. I just ride around 150 to 250 miles usually. A lot of times 60, 70 miles. I don't really go like all over the place like a lot. And, if you're in a club, I think you should get a much bigger bike than a Sportster for the most part. You can do it, though, on a Sportster. But, that's kind of digressing. I always say that Sportsters are probably best. The Sportster and the Dyna are probably the best two bikes Harley made for the average Joe, right? Because the average Joe is not like a cross-country rider or somebody that is in a club that puts on, thousands and thousands and thousands of miles a year just in group riding. They're not into that. They're not into it to that extent. So what did Harley Davidson do? They got rid of the Sportster and the Dyna. To me, that was dumb as all hell, man. I just can't believe that. But I think it has to do with they're so far out of touch. That's why it would be good if somebody like this Panhead Billy Burrows and Scooter. These guys need money, man. Throw some money at these guys. Go drop them like $500,000 each. Johan, go drop them You got $50 million just in bonuses in 1 year. You can't drop these guys $500,000 each. Doesn't matter with you. Greed. That's what's the matter with him. Look at this guy smiling. I'm such a nice guy. Penny pinching prick. Okay? PPP. This guy would never give anybody squat. And he'll act like la-di-da-di-da. I just screwed up a whole company. And, I always said the company is not the corporation. Okay, it was the corporation back when there was Harley Davidson around making the motorcycles and the actual family. But since like AMF and even after that somewhat, it went on its own thing. And the only thing that was keeping it alive was the aftermarket scene where like you got the machinist would fix all the shortcomings in the bikes. People that were too stubborn to give up on Harley Davidson. The actual owners and riders, even though there's a lot of people that bought bikes because they wanted to play outlaw biker, but a lot of people bought bikes because it's American, and they're too stubborn. I could say in one way where I'm a little more, I don't know if you call me I'm not a hardcore biker, but I could say one area I'm more stubborn on is I will not give up on problems that come up on a bike. I don't give up that easy. And a lot of people will. So that's where I'm a little different maybe. But as far as the corporation, they don't care. These guys, just like Johan Zykes, he's like acting all, this smile, it makes me sick. It's like, in my opinion, I'm looking at this guy's face and I'm saying to myself, you're a phony as all hell. This is a BS. Nice smile, but it's all fake. That's how I look at it. That's how I'm reading it. I don't know why, but that's just my opinion. This guy, I don't even know if he ever rides bikes. And you got the new guy from Top Golf gets in there, and they're trying to make it to the lifestyle brand. You know what? I said this on another video, and I'm not even trying to do this for any kind of attention. This is just stuff that irks the hell out of me. It's like the guy, the top golf guy, whatever the hell it is that came in now, they're talking about making it into a lifestyle brand or whatever the hell it is. And I'm like, how would he know what that is? Just because he made something with the golf and then something with the lifestyle, how would he know what it is with the lifestyle of the bikes when he doesn't even ride it? Why don't they bring in, these guys should be like Panhead Billy and Scooter Tramp Scotty and other people like that, anybody. You could have a whole team of people. You could have people that were in outlaw clubs or whatever. I don't know, anybody, just they're in touch with what they ride the bikes and they're in touch with what's going on. Even me, I'm better than these CEOs. I'm not in touch with this stuff, I ride the motorcycle and I fix it. But I'm not like into the club scene or anything like that. But I'm a little more into it. That just riding a motorcycle and fixing and doing your own stuff, that alone makes me more of an expert on it than these CEOs. Like I said, I think what Harley should go is what, it's tradition and heritage. They call it that. But I look at it like it's a good bike, and actually, I don't care what all these AI, artificial intelligence generated videos say about Harley Davidson, because there's a load of them out there slamming it lately. I still look at, like you look at this Panhead, whatever it is, or any of them, like they're all pretty much the same. You got a separate engine, and you got a separate transmission. I know the 2004 and Sportster and up doesn't have that anymore. But all the Jap bikes pretty much all have that unit construction with the transmission in the case with the freaking engine, and they're not separate compartments. I mean, the Sportster's in the same case, but it's a separate compartment. You can pull the transmission out of the Sportster through the trap door from 2003 all the way back to 1957. The Jap bikes, you got to pull the engine out and you got to split the cases. And then they got chain in there to drive, the overhead cams and stuff. They're not easy to work on. And, Ducati, I mean, it's a great bike, the Italian bike, but you got some maintenance intervals on there that are really, really short. And, you don't see AI videos out there bashing that stuff. The Harley Davidson, I know, but let me say this, every shortcoming, like you got certain shortcomings or certain your twin cams, even the later twin cams could be better, but, S&S and fueling and whatever, they got all kinds of aftermarket stuff to make all that stuff way, 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 way better. You say, why should you do that? Well, the thing is, once you do that, you got a bike that's going to last a gazillion miles. You put Carrillo rods in there or whatever the hell it is, or if you put like an S&S bottom end in it or something, or you go to Hammer or S&S pistons or Andrews cams and Andrews gears, yeah, that's money. Or Baker transmission. I think Scooter Tramp Scotty runs a 5-speed Baker transmission. Actually, when they went to the 6-speed, I heard that isn't really a better transmission. The 5-speed's better, man. I don't know. But, it's like, people are always going for gimmicks. And that's one good thing about Harley. They have resisted the gimmicks pretty good. But, part of the reason, well, there's one part of it is actually the customer's at fault, too. Because the customer is sometimes thinking, like, I'm a show-off, and I like this glitzy stuff. And, so if you put more glitz on a bike, it'll sell better versus, maybe spending more money on, more better metallurgy or something in the crank pin or something like that. I don't know. And you look at this guy here, this guy, Panhead Billy. You know what I like about this picture right here? You see this bike? It's like, you got a couple spots on it, like silver gray and stuff like that, and it's got some chrome. But this is really like, if you go back in the 70s, not the 90s, I think, that guy Hollywood, he talks about. I'm really older, I'm not like old, but I'm 70, right? So I remember like the bikes usually were not super polished up the way you're looking at them today. When you're looking at going to these bike events, like everything is chrome on these bikes. The only thing I remember way back in the 70s or even the early 70s when they had like a bike came in that was like really chromed up, it was usually an Electroglide. And it had 50 million lights on it and all kinds of chrome. And it was somebody that just wanted it was like a big, I don't know, it had like the big horns on it, the big white walls and fender flaps or whatever the hell it is. And it was like, it was decked out to the hilt. That's all I remember about bikes that were like really glittery, had a lot of chrome. It would usually be a decked out Electroglide. But pretty much all the other bikes, they had some chrome on them, but they weren't like spit shining them every 2 seconds. They were riding them damn things. And, they're kind of like this. They're kind of like this, man. So, I mean, I don't know where people are, I don't know. Sometimes people are trying to act like they're outlaws, and like when they shine the hell out of their bike and they're worried about a fingerprint on the chrome, they sure aren't being like outlaws. They're not even being like regular people. They're just being yuppies, man. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where all this junk is going, but I think that, everything that's going on in the world today, it's like you got the 1% getting more and more money, or let's say the 1% of the 1%, the 1 basis point, and everybody else is getting screwed. And most people, they probably spend more time messing around on the internet than they do getting out there and getting their hands dirty. That's another problem too, because the internet's good for getting some kind of knowledge, but it's like really a total waste of time, because you're not really getting nothing done. And I think that's probably why a lot more people are not riding as much the way they used to, because they're too much with their heads glued onto the internet or their cell phone or something like that. But probably the best therapy you can ever have, because sometimes people want to escape, so they go on this internet. Well, your best therapy probably would be getting out on the motorcycle. A lot of people say that. But I was looking at. He's got some kind of page out there, just Panhead Billy Burrows. I think it's a GoFundMe, and he's trying to get money for the last couple years for hip replacement or something, so he can ride again. And I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about, I think it was like $25,000 total he was looking for, and I think he's got $4,000. I forgot what it was. And I'm thinking about this guy, or the new guy from the golf company, and this guy was from Puma. They got millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. These guys did nothing for Harley. They screwed it up, and they're going to continue to screw it up. This guy, if this guy was common knowledge, the fact that you got a 1960 Panhead with a 1947 frame, and I don't know what year this Springer is on here. He's got a disc brake up front, which is smart. Man, a lot back in the day, everybody's running spools in the front, man. No brake in the front. I'm like, God, man, that's like pretty dangerous. But bikes are dangerous anyway. I remember the other night, I'll say, I'm riding down the road with the little 883 Sportster, and the headlight goes out. So I'm like, what the hell? And I saw there was nothing up on a switch. It wasn't doing anything, high beam or low beam. And I noticed the indicator for the high beam wasn't working. So I get off the bike and I smack the headlight, and it comes on. Then it goes off again. I said, oh, man, there's a wire or something messed up in here. And I said, but I got like 28 miles to go on this dark country road, winding road. So I rode down the road with my left blinker, kept hitting my left blinker. So I had like an orange light flashing on the road so I could see where I was going. And I'm going all around these curves and stuff. And I'm like, and that's on a freaking stock bike. That's, not even nothing like this. So you can imagine, what this guy went through riding all his life. He probably had 8 million harrowing experiences. And that just happened to me a couple of days ago. I should have stopped and fixed it, but I think I wasn't really sure what was wrong with it. And when I got back, I realized, oh, God, that's all it was. Just a loose wire. I was like, I kind of figured it was a loose wire, but I didn't feel like stopping well, it was dark, and if I stopped I couldn't see where to stop. There's no street lights or nothing. I had it was by the Cala National Forest going along there. That's why there was nothing there. So I was like, how the hell am I didn't have a street light. I didn't have nothing, man. So I was like, let me just keep going, my blinker on. Anyway, but this guy, this guy did way more for Harley than any of these CEOs. If they made a commercial about these are whatever kind of bikes these are, but these are Harleys, but they're Sportsters, I guess, right? Yeah. So, they had made a commercial about this guy or Scooter Tramp Scotty. Harley would sell, Harley would sell more. And actually, that would really sell the lifestyle more, too. And, they got no right to do that unless they pay these guys some money. Right? These CEOs are so far out of touch. They got it basically right that people are buying a lifestyle when they buy the bike, kind of like that. They're trying to buy a lifestyle or trying to look like they're something else or whatever they are. But, if you had guys like this, like Scooter Tramp Scotty or this Panhead Billy Burrows as ambassadors for Harley, that would really straighten things out a lot. And I'm sure he could pay him a hell of a lot less. I mean, if you just pay these guys $1 million a year, that would be nothing compared to what you're paying those other schmucks that don't do anything, right? Anyway, just a thought. What's fair is fair, right? Let's keep it square.